Hi there. I wanted to do a review of the Continental Road Attack 3. My experience with these. When I went looking for these, there was not a lot of information out there. And the information that was out there was very much a fanboy source, if you were. They were saying that these things touched by God, they were perfect, all those wonderful things. We'll start off with the good, and then we'll start off with why I'm not going with these again. So the good, as far as stability goes, these things, particularly on sweeping turns, just felt so ridiculously planted, and just, I forget what Continental calls it. It's easy handling. That's the name of it. But they have a process called easy handling, and these things, when new, would just drop into a turn perfectly. They were great regarding that, and you can see the profile on the tire is definitely a little bit flatter than a lot of sport tires or some other sport touring tires. They're just trying to do it for longevity's sake. These tires, to give you a point of reference, have between probably around 3,600 miles on them. Maybe 36, 35, but probably closer to 3,600 miles at this point. And you can see that at some points it's down to the wear bar. Plenty of meat left on there if you're comfortable riding past that point, certainly where the manufacturer recommends taking it off. And the handling was great. It turned in easy. Continental touts their traction skin, so it has a roughed up edge when it comes out of the mold. That was a little odd. I can scrub in a tire. I've done, by this point, probably around 80,000 miles of riding in my lifetime. So scrubbing in a tire is not really a big deal. It's kind of a basic skill for riders, in my opinion. But it was interesting to try because the tire essentially had two textures as you wore off that skin and kind of got into the normal wear of the tire itself. So the traction skin really didn't make a difference one way or the other for me. The easily handling was nice. It dropped into turns very easily. The handling was good, and the stability was really the biggest thing. And the dry and warmish, not too hot, but warmish weather, they stuck fantastic. I loved them. They would heat up nicely. The tires, you would just see the rubber starting to ball up sometimes. And they have their variable curing where it's a harder, not a harder, but it's going to be softer over on the edges, so they vary what the temperatures, they cure everything at the time, and that does help to a point. It's definitely a smooth transition from side to side, but really other tires I've had previously, I didn't really have an issue with that either too much. So the handling was good on these. At this point has really gone downhill. It almost feels like you're having to shove it into a corner. And I've tried different pressures. If the pressure's too high, it does help some, but it makes the tire twitchy. So I'm taking these off to replace and try some of the Michelin Power 5, their new ones here. And there will be a scrub-in test for those coming up. But the handling was easy. The stability was good. The ride was pretty good. They weren't terribly noisy. If you were riding past the wear bars, it's hard to tell how much more you could have. This is the only set of these I've run. I won't be going back to them just because of the issues we're going to talk about. They are, at this point, kind of wearing quickly towards the edge. As far as what was wrong, why I'm not going with these, is I didn't like their cold weather or their wet weather handling, and sometimes they were a little unpredictable, mainly in the wet or cold. I did have an instance a couple of weeks ago where I was on a continuous speed sweeping sweeper, and the rear just started to come out and slide around and kind of come around on me. I wasn't on the throttle, I wasn't on the brakes. It just decided I was done at that point. And no issues with the road or anything else. The wet and the cold was really the biggest issue for me. I tend to be an all-weather rider. The Michelins I'm putting on do have more silica, so I'm hoping that can help out there. But these in the rain, it'd be fine, and then it wasn't. And when it slid out, it was not just a wiggle, it was the rear end's coming around on you. Same thing with the cold. And when I say the cold, I'm talking in the 40s and 30s, mid to high 30s. I am an all-weather rider. So like I said, if you're fair weather, you'd probably love these things. But as far as someone who really expects that all-weather performance out of a sport touring tire, which is what they're aimed for, these do, in my opinion, fall short there. I was not as happy as I could have been with them, so I'm not going back with these again. Other than that, I've seen other people have had issues. You can see a little bit of the trailing edge is higher. I know that's a rebound issue, but kind of a trend with these tires. The front, I don't know how it shows on the video. It is a little bit kind of slanted to one side, which for how I had the tire mounted. That was my left side. So that was not surprising. The left side is going to have a longer radius, so it's going to have more wear. Same thing we see on the rear tire as well. So they're not horrible tires, just for $350, really what you're going to get for them shipped in most cases, give or take. I think we can do better. My personal experience and other tires I've run to compare them, the Bridgestone S21, I've run 2 sets of the M7RR, I've run 2 Road 5 rear tires, I've run the BTO16 Pro, the regular BTO16, the original Road Smart 2 before they reformulated it. And all of those had a more predictable rear end and better performance when it came to cool weather or wet weather performance. In my opinion, in places where I ran those, sometimes on the hard side and wet weather, these things did let me down. So that's why I'm kind of replacing these. Even with the meat left on there, like I said, I'm ready to try the new ones, get some riding in with those. But that's my opinion of the Continental Road Attack 3.